Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service on this 25th day of October 2020. I'll be hosting today's show. And for the hazardous weather graphic, we still have the winter storm warning for heavy snow up there in the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, including Northway and Eagle, but east of Fairbanks, and that's out until 7 a.m. Tuesday morning. So it kicks into effect later tonight, and is in effect through tomorrow and tomorrow night. And looking for a fair amount of snow still, not much different from what was in the forecast yesterday. 5 to 9 inches in the area there, up to 12 inches in the higher elevations in some locations there. Other areas you'll see a little less than the 5 to 9 inches, but still pretty good snowfall coming up into the eastern interior there. As you can see, winter weather advisories, all for snow. They're for the Fairbanks area on up into the Yukon Flats. And it starts to taper off a little bit the farther north you go. So the areas north of Fort Yukon will see probably much less than the areas south of Fort Yukon in that zone area. And also the same thing as you head out west toward Tanana, you'll see less than Fairbanks. And we have a winter weather advisory for the Susitna, Manuska Valley, and Copper River Basin, as well as the greater Anchorage area. And as far as Anchorage goes, in the forecast currently, that kicks into effect tonight. Kind of hard to tell when the actual get into the solid snow, but it'll be coming. And actually, we were looking at 48 inches up to 12 inches by noontime Monday, and that's in the Anchorage area. And the 12-inch snowfall, that's for areas above 2,000 feet. So, upper hillside areas, Chugach Mountain areas, that's where the 12 inches is expected to fall. Otherwise, lighter amounts. Copper River Basin, we're looking at 6 p.m. tonight to 6 p.m. Monday evening for the time frame there for the advisory, and roughly 5 to 12 inches of snow across the Copper River Basin, with possibly amounts as high as 16 inches. Again, mountainous terrain there for that. And just an outside chance you could get that much. Again, some areas will see less than that, but pretty good snowfall coming in. Low pressure tracking into the Prince William Sounds, you can see. So advisories, warnings we have out, pretty well covered, pretty good. And otherwise, that's the only location for winter weather advisories, watches, or warnings in the state. Nothing out west, no big storms coming in. Weakening front pushing into the western Aleutians and the southwest Bering Sea. You can tell it's really not that impressive looking, with the clouds kind of have a shredded look to them there. But it is bringing some light precipitation into Chimney-and-Attu, possibly reaching Kiska this afternoon. Just some clouds into Adak, and winds not really all that significant with that feature. And then higher pressure, drier conditions, see thinner clouds and actually some clearing there over the Bering Sea, especially the central and southern Bering Sea, eastern Aleutians. Atka Island, pretty good today. Still mostly cloudy around the Pribilofs. Could have a few sun breaks though. And then the moisture streaming northeastward, the strong southwest jet, good push of warm air, and warm front coming into the, actually west of the Queen Charlotte. It's not even into the southern Gulf of Alaska. And that's kicked the wind up and the precipitation on the increase today along the southeast coast. Gale warnings currently, gale force winds are currently going on, have been observed there off the southeast coast in the marine areas there, with gusts of 50 miles an hour, 50 to 55 miles an hour in the buoys. And pretty good winds from the North Gulf Coast as well into the Kodiak Island area. That's where the heavier rain was, over an inch falling in the last 12 hours there. And but winds gusting as high as 50 miles an hour at Middleton Island, seeing gusts, and Augustine Island, gusts 51 miles per hour. Homer had gusts of 35 miles an hour, and Barren Islands saw peak wind gusts 61 miles an hour. So winds all along the coastal areas in the North Gulf Coast on down into the Panhandle today, and that's going to continue to increase. Definitely seeing some heavy rain will come into the southeast coast overnight tonight over the next 12 to 24 hours. and pretty good rainfall again with these snowfall levels coming down over southern and southeast Alaska. Otherwise, up to the north there, fair conditions, clouds, passing snow showers. Northern Bering Sea, not a whole lot. Those are pretty light. Let's see, it was location of Portman had about 1 to 2 inches of snow today, and otherwise dry back to the west and northwest. Right at the freeze point, Kotzebue at mid-afternoon with no precipitation falling. Nome, though, 40 degrees, still kind of mild there, and cloudy skies. And again, not much in the way of any precipitation along the Arctic coast. What did fall is on the light side. So all the action is down over southern Alaska into the Gulf of Alaska and the southeast coast. And let's roll that through again. You can see northerly flow taking over the Bering Sea there with higher pressure west of the Pribilofs in advance of that front. And that's going to start, surges of cooler air will be coming southward over the next 24 hours. And then that'll be kicking eastward as the upper level low tracks across southern Alaska. And sometime tomorrow, snowfall levels will get low enough at some point where some pretty good snowfall will get into the Anchorage area, and definitely Matanuska, Susitna Valley, and no doubt up in the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and in the Copper River Basin. On the chart today, some areas of light snow up there, not too heavy though, pretty light actually. Scattered light snow again over the western interior there, with kind of along that trough axis there. Again, Portman was about the heaviest amount I could find. That was only like 1 to 2 inches. Otherwise, we're looking at a 1/4 inch to a trace to nothing at all. Dry for the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast. And some lingering showers out over the Bering Sea. Higher pressure cutting those off over the west central Aleutians. Light rain with that weakening front. That starts to elongate out tonight a little bit. Maybe spreading rain to Amchitka. Otherwise, fair light winds, Adak and Atka. Pribilofs, northwest winds 10 to 20, periods of light rain, fog, and drizzle, but light amounts at that. And cooler air coming into the northern Bering, so snowfall levels falling there. Keep a mixed rain and snow St. Lawrence Island, definitely some light snow areas of the Seward Peninsula. Dry up over the northwest, north slope on out to the Arctic coast. And then snow definitely on the increase, becoming moderate to heavy there. Upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country in the Copper River Basin. Rain snow line roughly where you see the Barbie pink color there across Cook Inlet and just north of the North Gulf Coast. And I'll just call it windy, rain, heavy rain at times, moderate at other times. Good shot of moisture coming in with gusty winds, maybe as high as 60 miles an hour there for the southeast coast. And moving on to tomorrow, front pushes in, so heavy rain and wind for the Panhandle begin to lessen up in the afternoon there, but will probably last the entire day. And the big kind of, again, colder air will be coming in when that low lifts into western Prince William Sound. Flow switches around, and at some point tomorrow, we'll get into snow northern Cook Inlet, Matanuska, Susitna Valley. Heavy snow at times throughout the eastern interior. Cutting off just north of Eagle, dry to the north there. Isolated snow showers Arctic coast, and front continues to weaken as it pushes in toward the Adak and Atka area. And for Tuesday, we've got lighter wind and rain for the Panhandle, maybe some mixed precipitation possible for Yakutat, Skagway, maybe Haines, and drier south central Alaska, colder air coming in, cooler temperatures, especially overnight hours through south central Alaska into Bristol Bay, and scattered snow shower activity you see over the central interior into the Kuskokwim Valley. That becomes more numerous and more widespread as you head northwest, with looks like a pretty good shot coming into the western Arctic coast there. Late in the day, Tuesday and for Tuesday night. Looking at the lows tonight, single numbers, Brooks Range into the north slope, otherwise teens for the Arctic coast, and 20s central interior, and lower to mid 30s for the south central Alaska area, mid 20s Copper River Basin, in the 40s for portions of the Panhandle, but lower 30s up to the north, and upper 30s, lower 40s, Bering Sea, Alaska Peninsula, and the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow, 40 to 45 there for the Bering Sea, Alaska Peninsula, near 40 for the southwest coast, mid-30s St. Lawrence Island, teens Brooks Range, north slope, eastern Arctic coast, 20s to the west, mid to upper 30s, 35 to 40 southern Alaska, again trending down temperature-wise southern Alaska throughout the day as the colder air starts to pour in, lower 50s some areas of the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather. Solid IFR in across southern Alaska there, becoming marginal VFR out toward Bristol Bay. Another band of IFR, Nunivak Island, Yukon Delta coast, just catching the extreme eastern corner of St. Lawrence Island there And then on up across the northern Seward Peninsula, VFR, western North Slope, central western Arctic coast, as well as the northwest coast. And really not too shabby for the northern third of the state, although kind of marginal there for the eastern Brooks Range, the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. But the IFR over southern Alaska extends down across nearly all of the Panhandle. And then another batch of IFR out there with the next front pushing into the western Aleutian, southwest Bering Sea. And for Monday afternoon, we've got... VFR, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, across the North Slope, Brooks Range, Koyukuk, Kobuk valleys, right on down the Yukon River Valley till you get out toward the coastal areas of the Delta. And the Bering Sea, pretty marginal south of St. Matthew Island to the Alaska Peninsula, Fox Islands. And IFR spreads eastward to Adakanatka. And a little bit of improvement, but not much. Still a lot of IFR, southeastern interior, south central Alaska, mostly northern Cook Inlet, and back along the Alaska Range of the Kuskokwim Valley, and along the North Gulf Coast, Yakutat, and a lot of IFR in the Panhandle, but becoming marginal in the central coastal areas, pushing inland a little bit there. So gradual improvement. And then moving on to Tuesday morning, we've got IFR for the western Arctic coast and North Slope into the northwest coast. IFR also for the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, marginal VFR, northern Bering Sea into the southwest coast, Norton Sound, call it VFR, as well as a good portion of the interior, and a good improvement really over the southern Alaska there, southeast interior. Some IFR lingering along the Alaska Range, over the Wrangell Mountains from the eastern Alaska Range on down toward, we'll say, Yakutat, and pretty well IFR for the Panhandle with some marginal VFR thrown in. Tuesday afternoon, VFR, South Central Alaska, Kodiak Island, although a little marginal in the south and southwest side of the island, Sitkinak, Trinity Islands, and marginal VFR, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, VFR south side, and IFR along and north of the central Aleutians, southwest Bering, marginal VFR elsewhere until you get to St. Lawrence Island, becomes IFR through the Strait, northern Seward Peninsula, and kind of branches off into the Selawik, Kobuk Valley, extending north-northeast across the Brooks Range to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, as well as the central coast. But improving eastern interior, upper Yukon Valley there, across the Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, looking pretty good for VFR flying. Eastern Copper River Basin, though, marginal. And the Panhandle, pretty good improvement there, VFR with areas of marginal VFR. And for passes, Anatuvik, marginal, early, becoming VFR, probably late in the morning hours. Same forecast for Adigan, marginal VFR early on, and probably by mid-morning to late morning it'll be VFR and continue through the afternoon. But Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR, and same forecast for Rainy, solid IFR. Same forecast for Windy as well, IFR. IFR for Isabel, IFR for Mentasta, IFR for Tanita, IFR for Portage, IFR for Chilcoot and White, kind of going into trance there. And for the freezing levels, quite a thermal gradient there ahead of that upper level low tracking slowly eastward across southern Alaska. And you can see the freezing levels crash behind the system there, come back down with the surface almost into northern western Cook Inlet, 2,000 feet tomorrow morning, back down toward the Barren Islands, but up to 10,000 feet. And along that thermal gradient, there's a fairly strong jet. But first, icing. We've got areas of considerable moderate rime icing along the moisture field in advance of the front there, heaviest over the southern Panhandle. And even though along the North Gulf Coast in the Copper River Basin, considerable moderate rime icing with light to isolated moderate rime over a big chunk of southern and southeastern Alaska, all the way up to the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, a much weaker band out over the western Aleutians. Now the jet stream here, upper level low, slowly tracking eastward and over the southwest interior midday tomorrow, but that jet with the thermal gradient and the freezing levels we saw, 160 knots coming right in over, say, Yakutat, eastern North Gulf Coast, 100 knots into the central Panhandle, 9,000 feet, strong winds there as well, the low tracking a little farther to the east about the same time, 85 knots northern Panhandle, east-northeasterlies 45 to 50 knots over the central interior, sweeping back around from the northeast, and 3,000 feet westerlies 65 knots western Gulf of Alaska. Turbulence, moderate chop, all along the coastal areas of the Gulf of Alaska and up over the interior along the Yukon River, upper Tanana Valley, the White Mountains.
Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us. Why is plastic marine debris so common? We know there's trash in the ocean. Unfortunately, a lot of it is plastic. We find plastic everywhere, from the ocean floor to surface. The plastics are all shapes and sizes and all different types. We find plastics on beaches, and also inside animals' stomachs or wrapped around their bodies. That's bad news for our ocean and the animals that live in it and near it. It's also bad news for us. A recent study from the University of Georgia estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic trash enters the ocean every year. That's like putting 5 bags filled with plastic on every foot of coastline in the world. That's a lot of plastic in the ocean, and it's there because, well, we put it there. The 5 most common items found during the International Coastal Cleanup are plastic cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles, plastic bottle caps, and plastic straws and drink stirrers. Notice anything in common with those? It's a lot of single-use, disposable plastic. It goes without saying, we produce too much waste. That waste ends up in the ocean when we litter or don't recycle. Plastic is an important part of our modern lives. We use it for a lot of good things. But we need to take responsibility for how much we use every day and where it goes when we're done with it. The 3 R's can help, and it's up to every single one of us to practice them. Reduce your use of disposable plastic. That's anything you use once and throw away. Just use less. Reuse disposable plastics when possible. A plastic bottle makes a great coin piggy bank or watering can. The possibilities are endless. Recycle anything that can be recycled so it stays out of landfills, where trash can blow away. Ocean plastic is a huge problem that's only going to get worse. Unless we change our ways, we can do better for the ocean and for us.
What is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch? Well, first, let's talk about what it's not. It's not a floating island of trash like a garbage dump or a landfill. It's also not the only patch. They exist all throughout the ocean, and the Pacific Garbage Patch just happens to be the most famous. Garbage patches are large areas of marine debris concentration that are formed by rotating ocean currents called gyres, kind of like big whirlpools that suck things in. A garbage patch is made up of tiny plastic pieces called microplastics that are less than 5 millimeters long. It's more like pepper flakes swirling in a soup than something you can skim off the surface. You might come across some larger items like plastic bottles, but it's possible to sail through a garbage patch and not see anything. And they're a big problem for the ocean and us. People often ask why we can't just scoop up all the marine debris in the ocean. And the answer is, unfortunately, it's just not that simple. The first challenge is the sheer size of these garbage patches. They're huge. They're constantly moving with ocean currents. And there's debris from the ocean surface all the way down to the sea floor. Not to mention all the marine life we would disrupt if we tried to just scoop up debris. So what can we do? Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority. We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep trash out of the ocean in the first place. And we can participate in things like shoreline cleanups. It's a lot easier to deal with debris before it gets to the ocean. Because until we stop marine debris at the source, we'll just be cleaning it up forever.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis today, continuing to fill in there. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, or the Beaufort Sea. You can see the thinner areas there, less than what was seen yesterday. And kind of expanding west and southwest a little bit there, but still pretty wide open there over the Chukchi Sea. And still some newer ice right along the western Arctic coast, and also down in toward Kotzebue Sound and up there in Norton Bay. There, some new ice as well. Otherwise, coastal water forecast. Gales for the southeast coast after the strongest ones will be coming later tonight into tomorrow morning early, and then coming down southwest, 35 knots, seas 15 to 20 feet, all along the coast there. And small craft advisories, Clarence Strait, south 25, south 30, gust 40 for Stevens Passage, and gales for the Lynn Canal with gust of 50 knots, seas 7 feet. And then for Tuesday, lighter winds there for Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inside waters down to 20 knots, seas coming down to 4 feet. Stevens Passage back down to 15 knots, and Clarence Strait south at 20. Even along the coast, much lighter winds, south coast west to 20, 13-foot seas. Small craft advisories hanging on to a portion of the north coast there, and then back down to 15 knots near Yakutat. Cook Inlet, big range, depending on which side of the Forelands you're on. North of the Forelands, south 15, 4-foot seas. Full gales south of the Forelands into Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, all west 40 knots, seas 12 to 18 feet. And 45 to 50 knot winds there for the North Gulf Coast from the west-southwest, with the storm force winds likely around the Middleton Island area, southwest 30 Prince William Sound, seas 6 feet. And then for Tuesday, really coming down for Prince William Sound, north at 10, seas coming down to 2 feet. North Gulf Coast, northwest 20, 11 to 14-foot seas. Northwest 30 knots for the Barren Islands, seas 12 feet. And small craft advisory, Kamishak Bay, northwest 25. Cook Inlet, back into the light wind pattern, north at 10 with 1 to 2-foot seas. Kodiak Island tomorrow, gales 35 to 40 knots out of the west, so higher gusts coming out of the western, on the east side of the island, like Women's Bay, higher gusts definitely. Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, south side of the peninsula, 25 to 30 knot winds there for small craft advisories. Also 25 to 30 knot winds, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay with 6 to 7-foot seas. And for Kodiak Island on Tuesday, we've got small craft advisory on the east side and west 20 for Shelikof Strait. Sitkinak to Castle Cape, northwest at 20. 10 to 15 knot winds for the Alaska Peninsula out of the northwest, seas 4 to 6 feet. And Bristol Bay, northwest at 15 with 4-foot seas. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, basically mostly west winds at 15 knots with seas running 5 to 7 feet. South to southeast, light winds again for Adak and Atka at 15. Really weak front coming in there, and only 20 knots for the areas from Mchitka to Shemya. Call it southeast at 20 with seas around 10 feet. And then for Tuesday, west-southwest 20 knots for the western Aleutians and west-southwest 15 knots for the central Aleutians. Fox Islands, southeast 15 to 20 knots with 4 to 9-foot seas. And moving up to the southwest coast, we've got northwest winds 20 to 25 knots with the small craft advisories off the Kuskokwim Delta coastline are in those marine areas. They're only 15 out of the northwest of the Pribilof. St. Matthew Island, northwest at 20. St. Lawrence Island, north 20, 5-foot seas. Norton Sound, north of 15, seas 2 feet. And I hope my voice lasts. And for Norton Sound, west at 10 for Tuesday. Pretty light winds backing across all along the southwest coast, northwest at 10. St. Lawrence Island, same thing. 15 knots, give or take, for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island. And for the Arctic coast, east side, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east winds 15 to 20 knots, and the central coast, southwest at about 10, seas 2 feet, even lighter on down the coastline. The west side there, 10 knots, turning north, Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson at 10 knots, and then picking back up Cape Thompson to Wales, north at 20, seas 5 feet. And for Tuesday, small craft advisories, area from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort, northwest 25 knots, 6 to 7 foot seas, westerlies at 20 for the western and central coast, and southwest 15 to 20 for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, with seas and ice free areas 3 feet. For tonight, big storm coming up, heavy wind and rain into the Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, mixture precipitation inland, winter storm warning, upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country for a lot of snow. And then it cuts off there, as you can see in the northern interior, staying dry to the north. And tomorrow, that low kind of splits in two, and eventually the wind and rain will begin to lighten up for the Panhandle, but gales throughout the day. And snowfall levels falling, crashing for south central Alaska, for winter weather advisories for southern southeast Alaska through Tuesday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.